You know that feeling, that deep, quiet exhaustion you just can't shake? What if I told you that feeling isn't a sign of weakness? What if it's actually proof of incredible strength? Today, we're going to redefine what mental strength really looks and feels like, and I have a feeling you might just see yourself in all of this. So let's start with a core truth, one that gets completely missed when we talk about resilience. It all begins with this one simple fact. Most mentally strong people, they don't actually feel strong. Not at all. It's probably the biggest misconception out there. See, the day-to-day reality of what it's like for them is something totally different. In fact, they just feel tired. Plain and simple. Because strength isn't about living a life without any weight. It's about the fact that you're carrying it day in and day out. So this is for you. If you've been surviving things quietly, handling all that pressure without anyone clapping for you, or just carrying that heavy weight without ever talking about it, you are probably so much stronger than you give yourself credit for. All right, let's dive into the first set of signs. This is where it gets really interesting, because we're going to see that true strength has almost nothing to do with how you feel and everything to do with what you do. It's all about that quiet, consistent action. The first sign is simply this: you keep going, even when you're tired. It's not loud, it's not dramatic. You just show up. You handle what needs to be handled. We think strength is about these big bursts of motivation, right? Nah, it's about consistency, especially when you're under pressure. And this part is so important. Being strong does not mean you're a robot, not even close. You feel everything. You get hurt, you get overwhelmed, and you absolutely feel doubt. The real difference isn't what you're feeling, it's what you do next. And that leads us right into the second sign. You don't let your emotions run the show. You might not even realize you're doing it, but you've developed a process. Something happens, you feel that big wave of emotion, but then you pause, you process it, and then you choose how to respond. I mean, just think about that. That little, almost invisible space, that gap between the feeling and the reaction, that's strength. That tiny moment of choice, that's where the real power is. Okay, so this whole idea of an internal process, well, that brings us to our next set of signs. This is all about the inner work, the stuff that happens behind the scenes when nobody else is watching. So the third sign, you take ownership of your growth. And look, this doesn't mean you pretend your past didn't happen or that people didn't hurt you. Of course not. It's about acknowledging all of that, but not letting it be an excuse to stay stuck. You still put in the work on yourself. That right there is real psychological maturity. And the fourth sign, you can sit with discomfort. We live in a world that is just begging to distract us 24/7. But you're not afraid of the silence. You can sit with a difficult feeling and actually think about it. Most people will do anything to avoid that. You've learned how to tolerate it. And being able to tolerate that discomfort leads directly to the fifth sign. You learn from your pain. You don't just suffer through hardship, you actually pull lessons from it. From heartbreak, from failure, from disappointment. Transforming pain into awareness like that, well, that's one of the highest forms of strength there is. Next up, let's talk about how mental strength is, at its core, just an act of self-respect. These next signs are all about protecting your own peace and knowing your worth. This next one is huge. The sixth sign is that you set boundaries. You've learned that saying no isn't selfish. It's essential for protecting your own peace of mind. And you do it even when it's super uncomfortable, and even when you know it's going to disappoint other people. Just let that one sink in. True strength is not about trying to make everyone else happy. It's about respecting yourself enough to protect yourself. That shift in perspective is a total game changer. And the seventh sign, you don't need constant validation. Of course, it's nice to be appreciated. Who doesn't like that? But your world doesn't fall apart without it. You have this internal stability because you know your effort is real, whether anyone else sees it or not. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground, but this last sign, this one is different. It's not about what you do day to day. It's about what you have already done. This is the most personal, the most undeniable proof of your strength. I want you to take a second and really do this. Think back. Go to a time in your life, a moment of crisis, of despair, where you genuinely, truly thought, this is it. I am not going to make it through this. And yet, here you are. You survived. You made it through. The fact that you survived something you were absolutely convinced would break you, that is all the evidence you need. That is not weakness. That is the definition of resilience. That is strength. So, as we've seen, mental strength doesn't always have to roar. Sometimes it's a quiet whisper. Sometimes it looks like just getting out of bed. It's trying again. It's choosing to stay calm, holding a boundary, and all that quiet growing you're doing in the background. If you recognized yourself in any of this, please hear me when I say this. You are not weak, you are resilient. And that exhausting you're feeling, that's just the byproduct of your strength in action. And I'll leave you with this final thought. Sometimes the strongest people in the world are the ones who keep going, not because they're unbreakable, but because they were never given the luxury of falling apart.